Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. Today is Thursday, April 9th, 2020. Today I'm going to talk about the latest news in the NBA that broke last night. The Masked Singer, Lego Masters, Millionaire. I'll recap all those shows. My latest NFL mock draft, my 2017 NBA ReDraft, and my top 10 artists of the calendar year 2018. First, I'm going to talk some NBA news. The horse competition's official. Adrian Wojnarowski broke the news last night. It'll be on Sunday night at 7 o'clock on ESPN. Among those to participate, Chris Paul, Trae Young, Zach LaVine. And the competition will also include a couple of WNBA players and recent NBA alumni. This will certainly get fans interested. I think ESPN is going to do a good number on this. It's certainly better than watching the players play NBA 2K, that's for sure. I think that the sports books are going to take some bets on this. I think it'll be fun. I know people are not a fan of this at All-Star Weekend, but it's better than nothing. And we don't really know if the NBA plans on returning its season this year. And Woj reported 2 hours ago that the NBA will pay players full checks on April 15th and that they've been negotiating a withholding a percentage of players' salaries per upcoming paycheck dates. And next up is May 1st checks, and the league would keep percentage of salaries based on canceled games. So that's pretty big news, and I'm looking forward to Sunday night for horse. And the other thing I want to talk about is that the Chicago Bulls are finalizing a deal with Nuggets general manager Arturas Karnisovas to become the franchise's new executive vice president of basketball operations. This is a really inspiring hire by the Bulls. Karnisovas really did a good job helping the Nuggets and Tim Connolly rebuild that team, as well as Josh Kroenke. He also is in that front office as well in Denver. And now he has a big task on his hands here to help reshape a franchise that really has been dysfunctional over the last couple years. They're probably going to have to hire a new coach. They have to hit on some drafts. They have not drafted franchise players in probably since Jimmy Butler. But they ended up trading away Jimmy Butler for a package that, let's face it, not as good as what Minnesota got back for Jimmy Butler. Now looking back, because one of the assets they traded, or they got back in the Jimmy Butler deal in Minnesota, they flipped again for some more assets. So the Minnesota Jimmy Butler trade looks better than the Chicago Jimmy Butler trade right now. And I wonder if Karnisovas is going to hire a general manager to work underneath them. And I think that this is a really good hire by a team that I think had to make a good hire in the Bulls. Because let's face it, they have not been relevant since the middle of last decade when they had Joakim Noah and injury-riddled Derrick Rose. They tried to sign Carmelo Anthony, but instead they signed Pau Gasol, and then they had Dwayne Wade there for a while. They had Rondo. They had a lot of aging stars there at points with those guys, and then they traded Rose and Noah, or just Rose to the Knicks, and then Noah left for the Knicks, and then yeah. So the Bulls, I think, have a long way to go, and hiring Arturas is a good first step in the right direction for that franchise. Now I want to talk about last night's episode of The Masked Singer. A surprising unveiling, to say the least, in terms of who was under the mask. They did Night Angel versus Kangaroo in one matchup, and the other matchup wound up being Turtle versus Astronaut. I was not impressed with some of these performances. I think it was just the song choices. Night Angel went first. She performed Man, I Feel Like a Woman by Shania Twain. And this super hint this week were security bags, or bags checked by security, and her bag had an ostrich, a crown, a globe, and a bee. Nicole Scherzinger had a good guess with Kiki Palmer. Ken stole Nicole's guess again with Taraji P. Henson. And guest judge Yvette Nicole Brown guessed Vanessa Williams. I'm going to stick to my gun and go with Kelly Rowland. Kangaroo ended up getting unmasked. I'll say who it was later. She performed Nowhere by Jordan Sparks featuring Chris Brown. And the irony is that Jenny McCarthy did think that Kangaroo was Jordan Sparks. But spoiler alert, it is not Jordan Sparks. Her bag had a lot of different things in it, such as a ship in a bottle, red lipstick, a CD, and a turning table, and there's a hint of the of Paris in there as well with the tower. And she threw everybody off by saying this was the first time she sang in front of people. And this blew the judges away. And they thought this wasn't her best performance, obviously. Robin Thicke guessed Lala Anthony, which I didn't think was a bad guess. Ken Jeong, Keira Knightley. Nicole said Black China, and Yvette went with Ayesha Curry. My guess remained Ronda Rousey. Astronaut performed If I Can't Have You by Shawn Mendes. The bag had the White House in it, an accordion, plane, like an airplane, and a light bulb. I'm sticking with my Jesse McCartney guess. Jenny McCarthy went with Ben Platt. Ken Jeong went with Seth Green. And Nicole Scherzinger went with Austin Mahone. Turtle sang Let It Go by James Bay. This was the best performance of the night, and that's probably saying that by default. There was a hint in the bag that had a sign that said, "Never keep open this bag." Those initials are NKOTB, New Kids on the Block. And that had me immediately thinking about Joey McIntyre or Donnie Wahlberg. But there was an arrow, and that made me think One Direction. So maybe it's not somebody from New Kids on the Block, because there's an arrow, and the arrow meant One Direction. So this could very well be somebody that is in a boy band that performed with New Kids on the Block and performed with One Direction. If I'm not mistaken, Backstreet Boys performed with both those bands. And of course, I'm sticking with my guess with AJ McLean. Although that NKOTB thing threw me off, although I saw the arrow, which meant One Direction as well. So that's why I'm sticking my gut and going with AJ McLean, although I won't be surprised at all if it's Joey McIntyre or Donnie Wahlberg. Jenny McCarthy guessed Adam Lambert. Yvette went with Joey McIntyre. And Ken Jeong went with Niall Horan. The SmackDown wound up being Kangaroo versus Astronaut, as Kangaroo sang Hot Stuff by Donna Summer and Astronaut sang Bye 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 by NSYNC. So much for speculation that the Astronaut could be AJ, or I'm sorry, not AJ McLean, JC Chazé, as Ken suggested a few weeks ago. So the winner of the SmackDown wound up being Astronaut. Kangaroo goes home. My final guess was Ronda Rousey. Ken Jeong went with Kat Deely. Robin went with Lala Anthony. Nicole went with Black China. Jenny went with Jordan Woods. And Yvette went with Ayesha Curry. And who was it? Indeed, Jordan Woods. So Jenny McCarthy is correct with the guess. Good for Jenny. I was surprised that she got that one right. I thought that Robin had a chance to be right. And at first glance, I thought it was Lala Anthony, but I'm like, oh, wait, no, that's not Lala. But Lala was a solid guess, I thought, by Robin. And I felt pretty good with the Ronda Rousey guess when Ronda said that she's never sang before, but then again, Rhonda's acted, so maybe she has sang in her past. So, as of now, my guesses for the 3 that advance onto the top 6, Night Angel, I still think Kelly Rowland. Kangaroo, obviously I voted off. Astronaut, I'm going to go with Jesse McCartney, and the Turtle, I'm going to go with AJ McLean. I feel strongly about it because of his voice, and he hinted at NKOTB and in an arrow, which meant One Direction, and obviously Backstreet Boys performed with New Kids on the Block, and I think that they have some ties with the band One Direction as well. Alrighty, Lego Masters, fun episode last night, surprising episode as well because all 3 pairs are going to the final. It was a surprise to many. Mark and Boone ended up winning the Star Wars build, and the bottom 2 ended up being Tyler and Amy and Sam and Jessica. And I thought that for sure that they were going to announce that Sam and Jessica were going home, but no, they said that all 3 groups were in the final, and they said if they had to give a slight edge to a pair, that it would be Sam and Jessica. So I don't want to speculate whether it was rigged so Tyler and Amy can be in the final, because Tyler and Amy, I think, have been the best duo this whole season, but they were just outdone by Mark and Boone this week. I thought that all 3 builds were really good. I thought Sam and Jessica, that was their best build of the year, and I thought Mark and Boone did excellent. I thought Tyler and Amy did great as well. So I kind of like the idea of the trios, or the 3 pairs being in the final, and I'm very interested to see what the final build is and what celebrity guests they have on to help in the episode, because they've been doing that a lot lately with some of these episodes. Now I want to talk about last night's episode of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Jimmy Kimmel's the host. The 2 contestants that were on last night were Eric Stonestreet and Will Forte. All these celebrities are playing for charity, and Stonestreet's charity was Building Hope for Autism, which I think is a fantastic charity to raise money for. And in this Millionaire, you can have a helper, and his helper is Danny Zucker, who's his buddy, who helped him out for the first 10 questions, and after 10 questions, you can either replace a lifeline by having him hang around for one more question as a lifeline, or you take him away and use the lifeline. So he used Danny, replacing the 50-50 lifeline. He made it up to the 13th question and walked away with $125,000 after a question about the Statue of Liberty's other name. And then Will Forte goes. He's playing for the Pangaea Network, which is helping out women in Kenya and in the United States. And he brought in his dad, Reb Forte, for help. And unfortunately, time ran out for Will Forte. He was on, I believe, the $1,000 mark. And that's where the one after, I believe it's $5,000, is what question he'll be on once the show is back on Wednesday. And Stonestreet, by the way, if he said final answer for the Statue of Liberty's other name, he would have been wrong. So I think he did the right thing by walking away with $125,000, or else I believe he would have dropped to $32,000, which is a pretty significant drop off from $125,000. Now I'm going to do my latest NFL mock draft. I made some changes throughout, so you'll see them as you'll go along, and there's some new names in there as well. All right, number 1, Cincinnati Bengals, Joe Burrow, quarterback, LSU. No doubt about it. After what was a breakout year, which led him to the Heisman Trophy, Burrow has emerged as the favorite to go first overall in the upcoming draft. The Bengals want to move on from Andy Dalton and start fresh here at Burrow, who second-year coach Zach Taylor could help develop into the franchise quarterback the team is looking for. 2. Washington Redskins. Chase Young, defensive end, Ohio State. Young is the best player in this draft, and he falls one spot to the Bengals' quarterback need. The Redskins need a lot of young talent on both ends of the ball, and Young would have an immediate impact in the league, chasing the likes of Dak Prescott, Carson Wentz, and Daniel Jones twice a season. 3. Detroit Lions. Jeff Okudah, cornerback, Ohio State. This is an interesting spot because this is a spot where a team could obviously trade up to grab a quarterback, and the Lions can get a nice haul back. The Lions are a team that's in dire need of secondary help after the trading of Darius Slay, and Okudah is the best defensive back in the draft. 4. New York Giants. Tristan Wirfs, offensive tackle, Iowa. The Giants have some options here as they can go with the versatile defender in Isaiah Simmons, or improve their offensive line, or even possibly trade down for more assets. Here I have them taking the high upside tackle with Wirfs, who is a freak athlete and could play right away and help protect Daniel Jones. 5. Miami Dolphins. Tua Tagovailoa, quarterback, Alabama. Many people thought at this time 7 months ago we'd be writing this selection except in the number 1 spot. Tagovailoa drops to 5th, barring the Dolphins or someone else trading up, obviously due to his hip injury he suffered in November that ended his college career. If he reaches his potential, the Dolphins get a steal here with the guy they coveted for over a year now. 6. Los Angeles Chargers. Justin Herbert, quarterback, Oregon. With the Phillip Rivers era over, the Chargers look to the draft their quarterback of the future. Herbert is someone that could have declared last season but stayed at school for one more season to try to improve his stock, but I feel he would have been a first-round pick last year too. 7. Carolina Panthers. Isaiah Simmons, linebacker, defensive back, Clemson. Simmons falling this far would be a major win for Matt Rule in his first draft. Simmons is someone that is an absolute stud who can play many positions on the defensive side of the ball and would be a nice piece to build around on defense. 8. Arizona Cardinals. Derek Brown, defensive tackle, Auburn. The last couple of mocks I had the Cardinals take an offensive lineman, but here I'm changing it up. They improve another weakness with the run defense to select Brown, who's rare for his size but always was a steady player in college. 9. Jacksonville Jaguars. Jerry Jeudy, wide receiver, Alabama. With Derek Brown off the board, the Jaguars go in a different direction and take the best wideout in this draft in Jeudy. Whether the Jags are sold on Gardner Minshew as their guy for the future or not, Jeudy would certainly help the cause with his excellent route running regardless of who's starting under center. 10. Cleveland Browns. Andrew Thomas, offensive tackle, Georgia. Thomas was someone I had going as high as 4th, but his stock dropped a little bit. The Browns did add Jack Conklin in free agency to solidify one tackle spot, but if they take Thomas here to hold down the other spot, it's a win for Baker Mayfield and the Browns. 11. New York Jets. Jedrick Willis, offensive tackle, Alabama. The Jets are in an interesting spot here where they can go wide receiver, offensive tackle, or offensive line, really. Here I have them taking Wills, who has great movement skills and is a great run blocker, too, and he'd certainly help Sam Darnold and his development. 12. Las Vegas Raiders. CeeDee Lamb, wide receiver, Oklahoma. With Jeudy off the board, John Gruden gets a nice consolation prize here at Lamb. He's somebody that has high upside and has great hands, body control, and is a solid route runner, which will help Derek Carr as possibly his new top target. 13. San Francisco 49ers from the Indianapolis Colts. Javon Kinlaw, defensive lineman, South Carolina. The Niners could go in a variety of different directions here with the first of 2 first-round picks. Here I have them replacing DeForest Buckner with the versatile Kinlaw, who has great speed, strength, athleticism, and size. 14. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Mekhi Becton, offensive tackle, Louisville. Here I have Becton falling down to the Bucs, who they gladly take with this pick due to their need to protect Tom Brady. Becton has high upside with his good movement skills and athleticism, but does have some flaws with his technique. 15. Denver Broncos. Henry Ruggs IV, wide receiver, Alabama. John Elway is doing jumping jacks as Ruggs falls here into this spot. Ruggs is someone that was overshadowed by Jerry Jeudy in Alabama's offense, and he has great speed and runs a solid route. He and Cortland Sutton would make a nice duo for Drew Lock to throw to. 16. Atlanta Falcons. K'Lavon Chaisson, defensive end, LSU. Edge rush and cornerback are 2 of the Falcons' biggest needs, and here I have them snagging Chaisson, the pair alongside new free agent pickup Dante Fowler. Chasen is somebody that was a sack machine in college and could make an instant impact in the pros. 17, Dallas Cowboys. C.J. Henderson, cornerback, Florida. The Cowboys wouldn't mind Chasen or Henderson, who would both fill team needs left by free agent departures Robert Quinn and Byron Jones. Henderson is someone that had a solid season in college this past year, and he'll come in and start right away. 18, Miami Dolphins from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Xavier McKinney, safety, Alabama. With the second first-round pick they received in the Minkah Fitzpatrick trade, the Dolphins take the fast-rising safety in McKinney. He is someone that can do a lot on the field and would really help the Dolphins secondary along with new pickup Byron Jones. 19, Las Vegas Raiders from the Chicago Bears. Trevon Diggs, corner, Alabama. With the Eli Apple free agent deal falling apart, now the Raiders really need to address the cornerback position. They do so with selecting Riggs, who has shown physicality and imposing length to be a top corner on a team. 20, Jacksonville Jaguars from the Los Angeles Rams. Jordan Love, quarterback, Utah State. The Jaguars surprise here with this selection and take Love, removing the narrative that the team is tanking this season for Clemson's Trevor Lawrence. Some scouts think he could be a poor man's Patrick Mahomes due to his live arm and mobility skills. 21st, Philadelphia Eagles, Justin Jefferson, wide receiver, LSU. The two biggest needs for the Eagles this offseason were cornerback and wide receiver. With Darius Slay coming in to fill the need at corner, they look to receiver and take the former LSU standout, who showed off his ability to make big plays throughout the season. 22, Minnesota Vikings from the Philadelphia Eagles. T. Higgins, wide receiver, Clemson. With the trading of Stephon Diggs to the Bills, the Vikings replace him with the first-round pick they received in that trade. Higgins is somebody that was one of Trevor Lawrence's top targets at Clemson the last 2 seasons. 23, New England Patriots. A.J. Epenza, defensive end, Iowa. With Jordan Love off the board and no other realistic quarterback option from this spot, the Pats go defense and take Epenza to improve their pass rush. He has shown to be versatile and has great length and athleticism, similar to expatriate and current Lion Trey Flowers. 24, New Orleans Saints. Patrick Queen, linebacker, LSU. Queen is one of the rapid risers of late in many different people's mock drafts. The Saints' biggest need is at the linebacker position, and Queen will certainly help the cause with his ability to play 3 downs as well as his speed, although he is undersized. 25, Minnesota Vikings. Kristen Fulton, cornerback, LSU. With Xavier Rhodes released and Mackenzie Alexander and Trey Waynes departed, the Vikings address the need here with a solid choice here with Fulton. He is somebody that has the size and athleticism and can show his ability to just be patient. 26, the Miami Dolphins from the Houston Texans. Josh Jones, offensive tackle, Houston. The Dolphins take the fast-rising tackle to replace Laramie Tunsil, who was traded away for this draft pick before last season. He has great movement as well as the length and feet to succeed in the league after being a starter for 4 seasons in college. 27, Seattle Seahawks. Yetur Gross-Matos, defensive end, Penn State. Gross-Matos' stock has dropped after being projected to be in the top 15. The Seahawks have a pass rush need, assuming they don't bring back Jadeveon Clowney, and Gross-Matos would help the cause with his good length and speed. 28, Baltimore Ravens. Kenneth Murray, inside linebacker, Oklahoma. With a stout defensive line in front of him, Murray would be in an ideal situation here in Baltimore. The Ravens have yet to address the linebacker position in free agency, and he would be a solid fit here with his ability to tackle in range. 29, Tennessee Titans. Austin Jackson, offensive tackle, USC. You can make a case that Jackson could have benefited from returning to school, but he decided to go pro early, which isn't a bad choice necessarily. Jackson is someone that stood out this past season and could come in and start right away for a team that needs to protect Ryan Tannehill at all costs, replacing the departed Jack Conklin. 30, Green Bay Packers. Denzel Mims, wide receiver, Baylor. The Packers don't have any scary threats at wide receiver other than Devontae Adams, and Mims would certainly help them, despite his somewhat inability to run after catch. He would certainly be their second option at receiver if he was the choice here. 31, San Francisco 49ers. Noah Ibngoni, cornerback, Auburn. The 49ers throw a somewhat curveball here and select the fast-rising corner in Igbinohe. With Richard Sherman getting older and he, along with 2 other corners on the roster, set to be free agents after the season, they get someone that has great flexibility and movement skills. 32, Kansas City Chiefs. A.J. Terrell, cornerback, Clemson. The Chiefs could go in a numerous direction here, or a numerous number of directions here, but here I have them improving their secondary by selecting the Clemson product. Terrell is somebody who's big and physical and could be a starter for the reigning champions after some free agency departures. Now I'm going to do my NBA redraft from 2017. So without further ado, here we go. Number 1, Philadelphia 76ers. Jason Tatum. There's a lot of what-ifs with this, obviously, as they took Markelle Fultz in the spot instead of Tatum, who the Celtics traded down from 1 to 3 to select. So, him, Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, maybe that trio wins a championship rather than what they have, and maybe they don't sign Al Horford. So there's a lot of what-ifs with that one. 2, Los Angeles Lakers. Bam Adebayo. Bam has proven to be one of the biggest steals as Miami has landed a very competent, skilled franchise big man in Adebayo, who made the All-Star team this past season. And he's proven to be a good shot blocker. He's proven to be a good rebounder and do a lot of other different things. And Adebayo with LeBron would have been fun, and maybe they don't pull off the Anthony Davis trade, or maybe they do and keep him at power forward and do a big lineup, or have LeBron play the point. And in this spot, they obviously took Lonzo Ball. 3, Boston Celtics, Donovan Mitchell. With Tatum off the board, the Celtics go with Mitchell, who has proven to be a franchise point guard for the Utah Jazz, being a really good offensive point guard, and really has silenced some doubters. 4, Phoenix Suns. And by the way, the Celtics took Tatum in that spot. The Suns at 4 take De'Aaron Fox. So the Suns here take Fox to be backcourt mates with Devin Booker. That would have been a nice foundation, and instead the Suns took Josh Jackson. Bust. 5, Sacramento Kings. John Collins. So John Collins has proven to be a pretty solid big man in the NBA. The Hawks stole him at where they took him. And John Collins would be a nice consolation prize after Fox goes one spot sooner. 6, Orlando Magic, Lonzo Ball. So Ball falls from 2 to 6. Lonzo Ball was having the best season of his career in New Orleans after getting away from the Lakers. And I think that really helped him, being in a new scenery, playing with a lot of good players around him. And in this spot, the Magic took Jonathan Isaac. 7, Lauri Markkanen, or the Chicago Bulls. They took Lauri Markkanen in that spot. They go with Jared Allen here. Somebody that the Nets stole later in the first round. He certainly would have been a nice building block for them right now. 8, New York Knicks. OG Anunoby, who Toronto stole later on in the first round, proven to be a good two-way player. He had that injury, and he's come back really good from it this season. And I think that the Raptors view him as a keeper. And I wouldn't call him a franchise player necessarily, but I think he is certainly going to be a good NBA starting player. And in this spot, the Knicks took Frank Ntilikina. Bust. 9, Dallas Mavericks. Kyle Kuzma. So the Mavs pick up Kuzma to be a combo forward who the Lakers stole later in the first round. And he certainly would have been a go-to scorer for them earlier, or at least his rookie year. And instead the Mavs took Dennis Smith Jr., who they traded away in the Kristaps Porzingis deal. Maybe, who knows, maybe they deal away Kuzma in that deal and the Knicks end up with OG Anunoby and Kyle Kuzma. 10, the Portland Trailblazers. Lauri Markkanen. So Markkanen falls from 7 to 10 in this redraft. Markkanen would have been a nice stretch 5 for the Blazers, as he would be playing with Damian Lillard and C.J. McCollum in Portland. I think that would have benefited Markkanen. The pressure would have been off of him. And I think he would have been a solid big for them that has the ability to shoot threes. Number 11. And by the way, the Blazers traded up and took Zach Collins with this pick. Charlotte Hornets at 11 take Zach Collins. Collins has been a solid reserve for the Blazers the first couple years of his career. He's had some moments in some playoff games as well. Charlotte probably would have viewed him as a building block. Instead, they took Malik Monk. Bust. 12, Detroit Pistons. They go with Luke Kennard, so no do-over here for the Pistons as they take their guy in Kennard, who has started some games for them, and in others have been a reserve. He's a decent shooter, and I don't know if the Pistons will give him that elusive second contract or not. 13, the Utah Jazz. They obviously traded up for this pick and took Donovan Mitchell, but here they take Jonathan Isaac with Mitchell off the board. They go with the forward and Isaac, who drops 7 spots in the redraft. He's had moments on Orlando. He's shown a capability to be versatile and be a nice defender too, helping Orlando become relevant again in the East. 14, Miami Heat. Markelle Fultz, so the number 1 overall pick, drops all the way to 14. He was having his best season of his career before the suspension. He's nowhere going to be the player that Philly thought he was going to be by trading up to take him number 1 overall. But he's certainly shown to be competent this season. And maybe he goes to Miami and fulfills his potential, and it could be him. So that's not a bad consolation prize for losing out on Bam in the redraft. But maybe they're building around him and Jimmy Butler, if they still would sign Jimmy Butler there, because they play the same position technically, but maybe they put Fultz at the point or Butler at the 3. 15, Sacramento Kings, Derek White. Nice role guy for the Spurs. Instead, they took Justin Jackson by trading back. Not a good pick. 16, Minnesota Timberwolves, Josh Hart. Good role player. Bounced from the Lakers to the Pelicans in the Anthony Davis trade. Instead, Minnesota took Justin Patton. Youth. 17, the Milwaukee Bucks, Monte Morris, a good, solid backup point guard on the Nuggets, who are obviously a contender. Instead, they took DJ Wilson. And certainly Monte Morris would have been a good rotation guy for Budenholzer and the Bucks. Indiana Pacers at 18 take Dylan Brooks, somebody that was a good role player on the Grizzlies this past season. Can shoot the 3 ball. Instead, they took TJ Leaf. 19, Atlanta Hawks, Damian Dotson. With John Collins off the board, they take a sharpshooter here with Dotson, who the Knicks stole in the second round. 20, the Sacramento Kings take Terrence Ferguson, solid role player for the Thunder. Instead, they took Harry Giles, who really hasn't been healthy. 21, Oklahoma City Thunder. With Terrence Ferguson off the board, they go with Jordan Bell, who had moments on the Warriors a few years ago, now is in the G League. 22, the Brooklyn Nets. Semi Ojali, someone that is a nice rotation player for the Celtics that comes off the bench. And in the spot, the Nets took Jarrett Allen, who I had going in the lottery. 23, the Toronto Raptors, Thomas Bryant. Someone that's shown to be a somewhat decent starter with the Wizards, but he has had some health issues in the past. And obviously they took OG Anunoby in the spot, who I had in the lottery. 24, Denver Nuggets, Harry Giles, somebody that really hasn't shown to stay healthy. Instead, they take Tyler Lydon, as they obviously traded back in this draft. The Philadelphia 76ers at 25 take Frank Ntilikina, who is a first-round bust with the Knicks, but has shown at least to be a solid defensive player, but has shown no real offensive game except in flashes. And instead, they took Enzicas Pasenkis. 26, Portland Trailblazers, Dennis Smith Jr., another New York Knicks player that was drafted by the Mavericks, and then he was dealt in the Porzingis deal. And the Blazers here take that DSJ, who would have been a nice sixth man on that Blazers team with Lillard and McCollum. That's how I see him, as like a six-man type of player. I think Dallas and the Knicks both overvalued this guy. 27, Los Angeles Lakers. And by the way, the Blazers in the spot took Caleb Swanigan. 27, the Lakers, with Kyle Kuzma off the board. They go with Dwayne Bacon, who was a nice reserve for Charlotte this past season. 28, the Utah Jazz go with Malik Monk. Take a chance here with a lottery bust. And in this spot, they took Tony Bradley. 29, the Spurs go with Caleb Swanigan, promising young big man who saw some playing time in the league. He was drafted by the Blazers at 26, and in the spot, the Spurs took Derek White, who I had going 15 in the redraft. And then 30, the Lakers take TJ Leaf, who has seen no playing time with the Pacers due to the presence of Miles Turner and Domantas Sabonis. And maybe he sees playing time with the Lakers. And in the spot, the Lakers took Josh Hart. So that was not a bad selection for them whatsoever. Now I'm going to do my top 10 artists of the calendar year 2018. Some honorable mentions: Bruno Mars, Camila Cabello, Ed Sheeran, Migos, Maroon 5, Pink, Lady Gaga, Halsey, Travis Scott, Justin Timberlake, Kendrick Lamar, and Cardi B. That was tough putting Cardi B in the honorable mentions, and even Kendrick Lamar to some degree as well, but 2018 was a good year of music, and I can only pick 10 to be in the top 10. So 10th place in my top 10 artists of 2018, Luke Combs, who really had his coming out party last year or 2 years ago. One number away, She Got the Best of Me, Beautiful Crazy, as his 3 singles off his album This One's For You. 9th place, Taylor Swift, who had a great year in 2018. She had the album Reputation, and the 3 singles off that album were Gorgeous, Delicate, and Getaway Car. In 8th place, XXXTentacion, a rising, or was a rising star rapper, but unfortunately passed away at the age of 20 in the middle of 2018. He was murdered, and it's just very sad, and he really did have a bright future ahead of him. Sad, Changes, Moonlight, and Bad were his 4 singles, and 2 of those singles were released after his death. So it's just unfortunate that he had passed away at such a young age, and he had such a bright future. So 4 singles for the late XXXTentacion. In 7th place, I have Nicki Minaj, who had a really good year that year. Released her album Queen with 4 singles: Chun-Li, Bed, Barbie Dreams, and Good Form. In 6th place, Ariana Grande, who had a really good 2018. Her album Sweetener came out, and then her first single off the album, Thank You Next, which was obviously 7 Rings. And the singles from Sweetener were No Tears Left to Cry, God Is a Woman, and Breathin'. In 5th place, I have Post Malone, who also had an outstanding year in 2018. Beer Bongs and Bentleys came out. Psycho, Ball For Me, Better Now, and Wow were his 4 singles that he released. And Wow was obviously from his current album, or his most recent album, Hollywood's Bleeding. In 4th place, Eminem, someone who is really on a nice little run right now. He had an album drop earlier in the year, this year, and then 2 years ago, he had an album, Kamikaze, that came out. Fall, Venom, and Lucky You are the singles off of it. And then 2 singles off his album Revival from 2017 came out in 2018, Nowhere Fast, and Remind Me, which was a single in Italy only, and that's why I have him as a little bit of an asterisk. So 5 singles, but really 4 in every country other than Italy. In 3rd place, Shawn Mendes, a absolute rising star. His most recent album, Shawn Mendes, In My Blood, Lost in Japan, Youth, Where Were You This Morning, and Nervous were the 5 singles released in the calendar year 2018 from that album. So, he's somebody that really is an absolute star. Obviously, he's dating Camila Cabello. So, both of them have bright futures, and Shawn Mendes I have number 3 on this list. Number 2, the late Juice WRLD. Unfortunately passed away last year at the age of 21. He was going on a plane and they found a lot of drugs in his bag. And then after his flight, he was beginning to feel sick, and then he was transported to a hospital in Oakland, Illinois, and he was unfortunately pronounced dead there. But he had an album, Goodbye and Good Riddance, in 2018 with 5 singles. All Girls Are the Same, Lucid Dreams, Lean With Me, Wasted, Armed and Dangerous. And then he had a single, Fine China, off an album, World on Drugs, with another rapper, Future. So he had 6 hits in 2018, and he really did have a good year. And number 1, Drake, who had a whopping 7 singles in 2018. 6 of them off his album Scorpion, God's Plan, Nice for What, I'm Upset, Don't Matter to Me, In My Feelings, and Nonstop. There's a single, Mob Ties, in there as well, but that was released in 2019. And then Diaplanic Immunity was a single that he released off a EP album called Scary Hours, which God's Plan was on as well. So my number 1 artist of 2018, Drake. So that's it for the show today. I'll be back tomorrow recapping any coronavirus news, if we have any for you, any other news that breaks in the world of sports or pop culture. I'll do my top 10 albums of 2018 and my 2017 NHL redraft as well. Hope you guys have a great day, everyone.